The 2025 NFL Draft is a very interesting one if you want a safety because I think there is a consensus top 4 to 5 in this class, but I think there's a lot of forgotten talent down the board or just players that aren't simply being talked about enough in this class. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys my top 10 safeties in the draft class, kind of where I think their roles will fit best at the NFL level, and I will be talking about where I think they get drafted, pros and cons. So if you guys enjoy this type of NFL draft content, consider hitting that like button, subscribing if you are new. We are doing position rankings for every position in the draft. We only have defensive tackles and running backs left after this one. So if you guys do want to, stay tuned for those. Those will be coming later this weekend. We're getting close to the end of this draft, but I got some really special stuff planned for the offseason. So if you enjoy my type of content, ring that notification bell so you never miss out on a video. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon page, which I will leave linked in the description below. It's $5 a month, but you guys will get exclusive access to my in-depth draft guide and big board, $5 a month, and you guys will get my scouting reports, player comparisons, player stats, combine and pro day numbers, and so much more. It's one of my best resources available. So if you guys do enjoy that, be sure to check it out. But guys, let's go ahead and get right into it, starting with my number 10 safety in the class, and that is going to be Alabama's Malachi Moore. Now for this number 10 spot, and there were a bunch of names that I considered for this spot. Sebastian Castro from Iowa, Dante Trader from Maryland, Maxon Hook from Toledo, Jalen Reed from Penn State. I know that one's going to really upset some people. Lathan Ransom from Ohio State. Like, there's some good quality players here. But I went with Malachi Moore because if you watch him on tape, he is just one of the smartest football players in the class. He has such a high football IQ. Whether it's reading a screen or playing single high, this is a guy that is incredibly versatile, and he just know where to be. He was always in the right place at the right time, and he was the voice of that Alabama defense, and I thought he was an incredible communicator. He has been a really consistent piece for Alabama. 89.4 coverage grade, which is one of the best in this video. 85.8. He had 3 forced fumbles this past season, 7 pass breakups. This is just a guy that he's so instinctual and just always in the right place at the right time. You can play him in the slot, you can play him single high, and I think he's got the skill set to do it. When you talk about some of the weaknesses he has, I don't think he's an incredible athlete. I think he's pretty average in terms of the way he moves. I think he can improve as an open field tackler. That's been an area of concern with him. But he did improve this past season. Only 5 missed tackles this past year for Alabama. I'm just a big fan of what he has to bring to the table. He's smart, he's instinctive, and I just feel like that's the type of defensive back that you always get with these Alabama type of prospects. And I think Malachi Moore is being slept on in this class. He's probably going to go back end of day 2, maybe in the late 3rd round, but he's probably going to fall to day 3 in this class if we're being totally honest with ourselves. And I think he's going to be a steal for a team. I think he could be in the league for a very long time just because he is so smart, such a great communicator. And I'm a big fan of what he has to offer on the back end. So Malachi Moore will kick us off here. He's my number 10 safety in this draft class. At number 9, I've got R.J. Mickens from Clemson. Now, it seems like the consensus is starting to catch on that R.J. Mickens is a very good safety. I was pretty high on him going into the playoffs. I thought that this was one of the better safeties in the country. 6 foot, 207 pounds, a guy that ran a 4.49, 41.5-inch vert, 10.1 on the broad jump. He's pretty athletic. I thought he's got really good range in terms of his sideline to sideline speed. But what I loved about him was just how sticky he was in man coverage. Had a 77.6 man grade, an 89.8 overall coverage grade, 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups this past season for Clemson. I think he just knows how to move. He's got fluid hips. He's got the ability to match up with running backs or tight ends and pick them up and stick with them in one-on-one opportunities. I also think he's a very hard hitter, a guy that has shown versatility to play all over the defensive backfield. He comes downhill, plays well in the box, and can hit really, really hard. This is a guy, though, that is a little bit older in this safety class. I believe he is the longest. I want to say he has the most games played in Clemson history. Don't quote me on that, but I know that this is a guy that has been at Clemson for a very long time. He's experienced, which might play into his benefit, but he isn't this young, high athletic upside type of player. And I do think he's going to have to improve his play strength because there were so many times where he would be met with blockers and it just felt like he was easily pushed around. He just bounced off of defenders. That's going to have to get better. He's going to have to do a better job of shedding blockers, being a more consistent run defender. But I'm a big fan of what Mickens can bring. I think he's a smart football player. I think he's really good in coverage. Missed tackle percentage and the ability to get off of blocks will need to improve for him. Only a 69.2 run defense grade, but I like his athletic tools. That's what gives him the nod for me over Malachi Moore. I've got RJ Mickens at number 8. At number 7 in this class, at number 8 in this class, a guy that I'm just a little bit lower on than the consensus, and that is going to be Oklahoma safety Billy Bowman. Billy Bowman, to me, is one of the most boom or bust prospects in this entire draft class. And when I say boom or bust, I'm not talking about him in terms of he's either going to be this massive hit or he's going to be a bust and out of the league. His play style is so boom or bust. He is so aggressive to the football, which it helps him. This is a guy that has been incredibly productive in terms of racking up interceptions over his career. Big time plays throughout his career, pick sixes. This is a guy that plays a lot of single high. He's smart, quick ball skills, closes, and can make a play on the football. 4.42 40, really impressive time for a guy that's 5'10", 198. He's just got some of the best ball skills in the entire class. He's really smart in coverage, but he bites a lot. And while that does help him rack up high interception numbers, it also leads to him just getting absolutely torched at times. And that's going to be an issue for him throughout his career, I think. This is a guy that, like I said, he is so boom or bust. And that's really why I'm lower on him, because he allowed some really big plays throughout his tenure at Oklahoma. Just big time plays happened right in front of his face. I don't think he's a very good tackler. I think he's got some bad angles that he takes pretty consistently. 15 missed tackles this past season for Oklahoma, the highest of any of the safeties we will talk about in this video, had a 23.1% missed tackle rate. His interception numbers also went down this past season for the Sooners. He comes in with his head down, and he just does not have great tackling technique. He's also a little bit smaller. He's 5'10", 198, sub 70-inch wingspan. I think he's going to be a good roaming free safety, a guy that's going to play on the back end and be able to rack up these interceptions, but he's got to be smarter in coverage because he is not going to be able to allow these 60-yard touchdowns like he did at Oklahoma. That's really the biggest issue with me for Bowman as a prospect. I know there's a lot of people that are higher on him, and I get it. I just can't really get there because some of the bad play potential that he brings to the field, but he is still my number 8 safety in the class. At number 7, probably my favorite safety in this class, one of the biggest my guys, one of the last guys I studied in this class as well, and that is going to be Tulane's Caleb Ransaw. Ransaw is phenomenal. One of the most fun watches you are going to have with any prospect in this draft cycle. 5'10", 196, so another guy that is a little bit undersized. But man, this guy can do a little bit of everything. I think he shows incredible physicality in coverage. He's strong at the point of attack, makes some big-time plays, but he's one of the best athletes in this draft class. And if we're going off of 40 times and combine numbers, he is the best athlete of the guys that we're going to be talking about in today's video. Ran a 4.33. He had a 16 on the bench, a 40-inch vertical. He's got some really good explosiveness. His stop-and-go abilities, his ability to flip and turn his hips, really, really impressive. But I also think he shows a willingness to come downhill and defend the run. He plays well in the box. This is a guy, to me, that probably profiles best as a slot player at the next level because of the physicality that he brings to the table. He is a willing run defender. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency. Has dealt with some missed tackles from time to time. And really the biggest issue with Ransaw and why he isn't a little bit higher, this is a guy that just doesn't have a ton of ball production. The interceptions, the forced fumbles, all of that hasn't really been there for Ransaw throughout his career. But this guy makes plays. He's seemingly everywhere. He's super physical in coverage. I think he's a smart football player with phenomenal athletic traits. I wouldn't be shocked if this guy's taken on day 2, and I think it would be a home run because of the versatility, the explosiveness, and the abilities he gives you as a player. Big fan of Caleb Ransaw's game, and I've got him at number 7. And then we get into the top 6, where I think everyone has the same top 6. It's really just a matter of which order you're going to put him in. For me, at my number 6 spot, that's where I'm going to have Jonas Sanker out of Virginia. A really fun player that I feel like is not being talked about enough. He is, to me, one of the best pure box safeties in the entire draft class. He plays really well attached to the line of scrimmage, and he racked up 31 run stops this past season. This is a guy that gets into the backfield and he makes plays. Now, the missed tackle percentage, he had 13 missed tackles this past season. A little bit high, but he had 73 total tackles. He hits with a lot of power. I think he brings some good upside to be a nice blitzing threat. He's a good, quick athlete with quick footwork and is a pretty strong and reliable tackler. Yes, he had 13 missed tackles, but this is a guy that was doing everything for Virginia. I'm not really worried about his tackling technique. I also think he's an overall good athlete that can play in a variety of different roles. Ran a 4.45 at the combine, which is really impressive. I think he's a smart zone player with good instincts, some good physicality he brings in coverage. I really like that. He does need to improve his eyes, though. He gets his eyes stuck in the backfield way too often. He got beat off the line of scrimmage, and I think he allowed too many big plays at college, which is why he's at 6 for me. And I think he could improve getting off of blocks. As good of a run defender as he is, I think there are times where he can make more of an impact in the run game, and he's just doesn't have the play strength to consistently get off of blocks. But this is a player that, to me, is going to go in the 3rd round. He's going to be a home run for a team because of the size, the athleticism, the ability to match up with guys in coverage, but he is one of the better run defending safeties in the entire draft class. So I really like what Sanker has to bring to the table. I think he's a fun player. I've got him at number 6. At number 5 in this class, and I hate that he's at 5, but this is where I'm going to have Andrew Makuba out of Texas. Him and number 4 are neck and neck for me. I think they are incredibly close as prospects. We'll get into that in a second. Makuba just might be the most instinctive, smart coverage player in the entire safety class. He's played in the slot. He's played single high. He's played in the box. This is a guy that has played virtually everywhere throughout his collegiate career. And he has been a very smart player. This is a guy that was a former recruit to Clemson, ended up transferring to Texas this past season, and his numbers were phenomenal. 89.7 coverage grade, 85.1 man grade, 88.3 zone grade, 5 interceptions, 6 pass breakups, a forced fumble. Just phenomenal. This guy was everywhere for Texas. Really good athlete, stop and go ability, hip fluidity, you name it, this guy was able to do it. I think he's got really good open field speed. I think he's got really good ball skills to make plays. And I think he's just a really smart roaming free safety. He is a little bit more disciplined than some of the other guys like a Billy Bowman who have some of these ball skills. But when it comes to Makuba and really the differentiator between him and number 4, Makuba's got to improve on his tackling. He is one of the worst tacklers in the class, and I don't think his numbers are going to reflect it. 13 missed tackles, 14.4% missed tackle rate. It's not an awful number on paper, but he struggles to get off of blocks, and this is a guy that just overextended time and time again. His technique was really up and down, and he's just not very physical. This is a guy that's 5'11", 184. He's not very strong. He doesn't bring a lot of physicality to the table, but in that roaming free safety role or a guy that you want to play in the nickel, Makuba could be one of the most impactful players in this draft class because I think his ball skills and his coverage upside is some of the best in the entire draft class. I'm just a really big fan of him. I think he's going to be a really good player, a guy that I would take in the 2nd round of this draft. I think he's that good. I've got him at number 5. And then at number 4, that's where we're going to have Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. Watts is another one of these players that I think him and Makuba fall into a very similar spot. Watts is 6 foot, 203 pounds. He's a little bit older at 22, but his ball production over the last 2 years for Notre Dame, phenomenal. 6 interceptions, 4 pass breakups in 2023. He allowed a 30.1 QBR when targeted. Now, to put that into reference, Makuba allowed a 12.1 QBR, so he was a little bit better in coverage in terms of that, but a guy that I just really think impacts the game in so many ways. His closing speed on the football and his instincts with the ball in the air is just ridiculous. He is always in the right place at the right time. And that's what you're looking for in a safety. He's just a very sound all-around player. Can stop and go on a dime, fluid hips, another guy that brings versatility, but also another guy that has concerns as a tackler. 13 missed tackles this past season, 12.6% missed tackle rate. It's a little bit higher than I would like to see. It was worse in 2023, so it's definitely got better. Really, the thing that gave Watts the slight nod for me is consistency. He has just proven that he can do this for a little bit longer. He has put up back-to-back 5+ interception season, and he's also a little bit bigger, just has a thicker build than Andrew Mukuba. He's 6 foot, 203 pounds. That's really the differentiator. But like I said, those two are neck and neck on my board. I think both of them are legitimate day 2, second round type of safety prospects because of the coverage upside that they bring. Watts is a little bit of a better tackler as well, but they're very, very close in my eyes. I've got Xavier Watts at 4. And then we get into the top 3, where I honestly think you could put any of these guys in any order, and I would honestly get it, because I think the top 3 are that good. But at number 3, that's where I'm going to have Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State. I wanted to have Kevin Winston Jr. at 2, but unfortunately, this is a guy that suffered an injury and ended up missing a majority of the season. This is a player that just didn't get on the field very much. He only had 74 snaps this past season for Penn State. So you really got to go back to his 2023 tape, where he was one of the best safeties in college football. This is a guy that I think could play in the box and is just one of the best tackling safeties I think I've ever evaluated. He had 0 missed tackles in his career coming into the season. Now, he had 1 missed tackle, which was a really weird one against West Virginia in the 74 snaps that he played. But his ability to come downhill, defend the run, be used as a blitzer, really, really impressive. He's got great size at 6'1", 215 pounds, 32.5-inch wingspan, which is the exact same as the number 2 guy. He's physical in coverage. I think he's got good ball skills that are there, and he has sideline to sideline speed. He's incredibly rangy as an athlete. There's a lot to really, really love about him, but unfortunately, he is coming off an injury. I don't think his change of direction is that great. I think his hips can be a little bit stiff at times, and I would like to see that improve. He also is pretty high when coming downhill at times. He's got to improve his pad level, but if he was healthy, I think he would be a first-round lock in my eyes, because I think he is a phenomenal player, a guy that just doesn't miss many tackles, and he's just one of the more fun prospects to watch. I wouldn't be surprised if he still goes in the first round, but I have him as my number 3 safety. At number 2, that's where I'm going to have Nick Emmanwori, just one of the freakiest athletes the league has ever seen. 6'3", 220 pounds, 4.38 40, 1.49 10-yard split, 43-inch on the vertical, 11.6 broad jump, and it shows up on the tape. 86.8 coverage grade, allowed a 37.1 QBR. A guy that put up 4 interceptions, 3 pass breakups this past year. He's just so versatile. You could play him everywhere, but he took a majority of his snaps in the box, and he's very physical, very hard-nosed, good run defender, really good closing speed. I think a lot of people are going to look at the times and think he is going to always play that fast. I think he's very, very good athletically. I don't think he's 4.38 good, but that's not an area that I'm worried about. I think his change of direction could be a little bit better. I think his eyes in zone coverage, he gets lost at times. He gets his eyes stuck in the backfield, and it leads to some bad mistakes. But him and my number 1 guy are very close. I do think the differentiator for me, Emmanwori's play strength has been a little bit up and down at times. But he's a good run defender, good tackler, good coverage player, and an elite athlete. He's going to be a first-round pick, I think, without question at this point. I've got Nick Emmanwori at number 2, but my number 1 guy, it is still Malachi Starks. He was my preseason number 1. He has remained my number 1 safety throughout the entire process. I think people are going to look at this season and say he had a down year. I wouldn't even say he had a down year. He played 907 snaps, had 62 tackles with an 8.1% missed tackle rate, elite number, 18 run stops, 85.6 run defense grade. The coverage was a little bit worse, but I mean, he's a very good run defender, which I feel like doesn't get talked about enough when you talk about Malachi Starks. He's a very strong tackler in the open field. I think he's a very smart player in terms of you can use him as a blitzer. And he runs a 4.5, which I think is going to be the biggest concern. He's not this crazy high-level athlete, but he's incredibly smart. He is still graded out incredibly high in coverage over the last couple of seasons. And I just think he can give you everything on the defensive side. Do you want him to play in the box? He can do that. He has shown he can be a consistent run defender. Do you want him to play single high? Well, he has shown the range that he has athletically. Yeah, he runs a 4.5. Kyle Hamilton didn't run a crazy 40, and he's one of the most versatile defensive backs in the league. You want him to play in the slot? Well, he's got fluid hips, the stop-and-go ability to match up with anybody. He reminds me a lot of Jesse Bates, and I think that that's been my comp for him all year. And I still have Malachi Starks as my number one guy. But guys, would love to hear from you. Who did I miss in my top 10? I know a lot of people are going to be upset I didn't have Jalen Reed in there. I just like some of these other guys down the board a little bit better. Leave a like on this video, subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.